all these guys gossiping back and forth. And it's really just not, I don't think it's very dignified. But if you go to a small town and so-and-so cheats on so-and-so, and then everybody knows about it, and everybody talked about it, and then no one wants that to happen, so it actually kind of regulates their behavior. And so I think when we talk about gossip in a negative way, what we really mean when we say that is malicious gossip. Like, are you doing are you tearing someone down just to tear them down because it makes you feel good?
Yeah, I saw that you were doing some videography. I saw the primarily with the gym, with you working out, but I think you did one for the gym owners or something too. Is that right?
Yeah, I started training at the Strongman gym, really because I just wanted to work on some PRs, and you don't really want to bench PR by yourself, especially after a certain age.
Probably a good idea. Probably a good idea.
yeah, it's a good thing to do. So I started training there, and then I've been thinking about doing photography because it's kind of something that I've enjoyed over the years. That was my thing with social media. It's like, oh, I get to take cool pictures, and I've been doing that for a while. And they asked, they wanted to see if anyone could make some reels to promote the gym, and I said, yeah, I can do that actually. So they paid me to do some of that, and then I've came and filmed like a whole strongman meet, which was super fun. I had so much fun.
Oh,
it's so much fun going to a job after you've been self-employed for so long. Like I'm like, I have something to do and all day, and it's not just me trying to figure things out. It was really fun, and so I'm looking to do. I have a guy who runs like a gun TV YouTube. I think I'm going to do some stuff for him, and it's fun to do it with other people because it's actually really hard to take pictures of yourself. It takes a really long time.
I mean, you're talented. You are a creative. I've seen your videos. I've seen your photography for years now. I've seen your graphic design. I think you're a lot more talented in that realm than people might give you credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, that's originally what I went to school for. I mean, I went to art school, and so.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And so that's really what I think of myself as an artist first, and then I got into writing somehow, and then but I would like to do more visual stuff, and I think that we're in an age for that right now. I think there was so much talking for a while, and I think people want a little bit more vibes. And there's been a discussion for a long time, and we actually talked about that one event that we both did. I talked about it in my talk there. Is everybody says that like the right or whoever, I don't like calling it the right, but it is what it is. The right doesn't make art, and they don't create culture.
Tanner was talking a lot about this as well.
Yeah, and well, I can do that. So like maybe that's what I need to be doing with my life, more than being a talking guy, because I don't really like arguing with people. That's not my. There are some people who like it. I have a friend who like met his wife in debate club, and he's the guy. He wants to do that, but I don't like arguing with people for a living, and that's kind of what a lot of being an online personality has become. I think, and probably that segs into what we were going to talk about. But so much of it is just picking fights with people online. So that's I don't want to do that.
It is so true. I was watching a video clip from Chris Williamson from the Modern Wisdom podcast.
Yeah.
And the clip was him talking about why he doesn't get into debates or why he doesn't do takes. Right. So he said that. He's like, I will not watch a video or an idea or an ideology and give you a take on it.
Right.
But that's what you see on social media. A lot of these guys are doing takes. And I think what Chris said is he said that he doesn't do it because once you go down that path, there's no turning back. And don't you want to have new, fresh, original ideas, or at least original thoughts about a concept and an idea? And why does it need to be based on what somebody else thinks instead of just your own thought process around a thing?
Well, we both have done a good bit of jiu-jitsu, and personal attacks are like leg locks. Like once you open that up and get into that 50-50, it's one of you is going to get leg locked. It's a bad scene. If you go there, it's going to happen. So, I mean, you're opening yourself up for that. If you become the guy who attacks people, then you're also asking to be attacked as well. And that's, if you want to do that, there are some guys who just like, they look at the comments and there's all these people calling them names and they just laugh and they think it's great and it's fantastic. But I don't know. I don't want that life. It's just, you start giving those takes. You're like, this guy sucks and this guy's wrong and he does a bad thing. It's better to talk about big ideas, I think.
Well, and you're tearing down instead of building up, and
Exactly.
I think that's the biggest issue is when you start to get into takes, nobody does a take on somebody that they agree with.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. If you said something I resonate with, I'm not going to post a video and be like, hey, Jack said this thing and I really agree with him.
Right. No one cares.
You're only doing takes on things that you don't believe in, which makes sense. But
sure. What
I have noticed though is a lot of these guys, and we've seen this because you've been in this business movement. I don't know, like I don't like manosphere, but everybody understands the term. Yeah. You've been in this space longer than I have. And what's interesting is after me doing this for a decade, so 10 and a half years now, almost 11, geez. I see a lot of people do these takes. I see a lot of people drum up a lot of angst and frustration and contention and the tribe mentality. And you're going to drum up a lot of engagement.
Yeah.
But these guys who drum up engagement, it's interesting because they'll reach out to me and say, how do I actually create a movement?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. See, engagement, and what people don't know is engagement doesn't automatically translate to movement.
Not at all.
And which doesn't translate into having a vocation. Right. A lot of these guys are just doing this, scrambling to try to get as many people riled up as possible, and then they're going into bag groceries at their local grocery store for a living. But they're not creating a movement that actually moves men or whoever their audience is in a positive, constructive direction.
Well, yeah, if you're not saying anything and you're just giving hot takes to give hot takes, then what do you even believe? If like the things that I've written about over the years, it's like I've changed my mind about some things and whatever, but I have a pretty clear arc, and there's still things that I still agree with, and they're fairly consistent. And but if you're just saying this guy sucks and that guy sucks and that guy and this and just this issue, this hot issue that everybody's talking about, I have a take on it. I mean, X is actually the worst platform, I think, for that. Like, that's all it is hot takes. If you spend a couple hours on X, you will be absolutely convinced that our world is actually falling apart. There's so much dissent and so much arguing and so many people. And there was this guy, Razib Khan, who writes about genetics. I've been following for a long time. And he made a post one day. He's like, all of these tweets or posts that you guys post to X, they sound really clever, but if you built them out into an essay, you'd realize you're retarded. And that's often the case. I can say something that sounds really cool and makes me sound like really clever in a few lines. But man, if you built that into a full thought, and that's why I like writing. It's in the way that, when you're in school and you do math and they make you show your work. Writing is very much that way. Like, if I said something in paragraph 1 that doesn't make sense with paragraph 2, I need to reconcile that. But when you're just running your mouth, you can get away with that
with your mouth.
Yeah. And people always remember the last thing you say. So if you say something really positive or really negative or whatever, they'll remember the last thing, and maybe all the other stuff didn't have to make sense. They'll just remember the feel. They always say people remember how you make them feel. But with writing, it's a little bit math. Yeah.
It is. It's more linear. You have to actually delve into it. I was talking with somebody just the other day, and they had said something that contradicted what they had said just a few weeks earlier. And I said, well, hold on. You said this right now, but just a few weeks earlier, you said something else. And it contradicts. Help me understand that. And in a one-to-one conversation, if we're both respectful, we can have that dialogue. And I think people can hold conflicting thoughts. I can hold two thoughts that conflict with each other, and having somebody to work through it is meaningful. But I definitely agree with the writing process, because I remember when I wrote my first book in, I think it was 2018, 17, 18, I would write a paragraph or write a chapter, or even just a statement, and I'd ask myself, wait a second, do I really believe that? Is that? And also, people are going to fact check me, so I need to support this with anecdotes and actual data. Right. So I'd go do research. I'm like, wait, I've been saying this for 3 years. Yeah. I don't think I actually believe that. And it really helps you flesh out ideas in a way that just spewing nonsense out of your mouth doesn't.
Oh yeah, I've written myself out of opinions before, for sure. Like I sat down to write this angry essay about people making AI art, just using AI graphics, because I just got so tired of seeing AI slop. Like on Instagram and stuff, you see all these things like, you took 10 seconds to make that, and that bodybuilder's arm is like this. You know, it's you're making garbage. And I wrote myself into the opinion that I'm actually just a snob. I'm like, I have a very developed aesthetic sense, and people who don't are making garbage stuff because they don't have a good aesthetic sense. And I'm like, well, now that essay is kind of dumb for me. I can't really post it because that's what I'm like, oh, I'm just, I'm being snobbish about it, really,
And you can, though, right? Like you can be a bit of a snob for the things that are meaningful to you. But acknowledging it, I think, is powerful.
Yeah. It's like my opinion was different than when it started. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is why I don't like that. All right, fine.
I mean, I wish more of us, including myself, would do that and just take a step back and say, all right, hold on. Like, here's a great example. You're driving down the road, some guy on the road cuts you off, and immediately he's a dickhead, he's an asshole, he's inconsiderate, he's a fat piece of shit. You didn't even see him. Like, you just make up all sorts of bad stories about him.
Yeah,
but what you don't realize is that guy just got a call from his wife, and she's in the hospital giving birth to their first child.
Right.
Which could be just as accurate as anything that we would make up. We don't know. You might as well make up a story that serves you and leans into humanity of people and gives them the benefit of the doubt and just keeps you in a better spirit, frankly.
Oh, yeah. Totally. I mean, like, especially if you're in your own neighborhood and you know where you're going and everybody's in your way. But like, when I'm looking at Google Maps trying to figure out what it wants me to do and I'm like traveling somewhere, I'm that guy. Like, which lane am I supposed to be in? I don't know. But so I think we're all that guy at some point. Like like everyone knows which way you're supposed to go, but if you're traveling somewhere else, you don't know. And so like, obviously not everyone else who's driving is retarded. I always laugh about that too, because if you lived in several states, people in every single state seems to think, people in my state don't know how to drive.
We're the worst. It's the same with weather. The weather here is way worse than it. I'm like, for every person in every state who's told me, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Literally everybody says that about their state. Same with drivers.
Yeah. It's just a universal thing. Yeah.
Art is interesting when you talk about AI, because I remember taking an art class years ago as my first semester of college, and I hated it. I love art. I'm actually like, if I travel to a different city, I like going to art museums and looking at different art, and I like realism. I don't get much into abstract art, but then you see guys like Andy Warhol and what's the other guy, Jackson Pollock, I think his name is, with the splatter art.
Yeah.
And then I think, like, is that actually art? Like, is it what is art? And it is interesting because you do hear that the right can't create art the way that the left does, if we're just going to box it into that. Because you have, most actors, I would say, fall into the camp of the left. Most musicians, I would say, generally fall into the camp of the left. It seems to be more artistic in that way. But then you look at Catholic cathedrals and you look at incredible statues made of marble or cast in bronze, and you're like, dude, we can create too. We just need to do a better job of creating.
Yeah, and this is something that I've said for a while. A lot of it's money, too. And, the right has just as much money as the left, but it's how you spend it. And so, how do Hollywood movies get made? Well, some guys with a lot of money sit down and say, that seems like a good idea. Let's do that. Let's roll the dice on that. They're the guys who give the director money. There's people producing it and so forth. And the same thing with, like, how do statues get made? Well, someone funds that. How did you
Somebody
look at somewhere
commissions
like,
it,
you know, like talking about art museums, like I always bring up Andrew Carnegie. You know, like we know his name. Why? Because he's just a rich guy, but because, you know, he built all this stuff about Philadelphia. Andy Warhol's stuff is in his Carnegie Art Museum, and you build colleges and so forth. And they commission those things. Why? Because they wanted to be great. That's why I kind of like, we have a lot of rich people who don't want to leave a legacy, it seems like. In the same way that, you know, like, that's what I like about Trump. It's like he's an old style rich person that, like, I want to build things and put my names on things and whatever.
Yeah, his name, right? Trump.
Yeah,
I'm 2 hours from Vegas and you see Trump Tower and it's this gold gaudy building and it says Trump. That's all it says. I'm like, yeah, as it should be. He built that.
Yeah. Well, and like, you know, I was just in Florence and all the Michelangelo stuff and all the beautiful art, the Catholic art that you were talking about. I mean, that was funded by the Medici family. They're a banking family. You know, like they said, we want to make this whole town beautiful, and they did. And that's how this happens. You know, so after the guys who's got the third Lamborghini that he's flexing on, maybe you should make something beautiful. You know, because they're people who and that's not like a plea for me. I don't have anything I'm even planning to make. But there are a couple sculptors that I think are really good. There's this one guy called Fendevier, and I think he's from Scotland, and he makes really good modern art, and he's kind of on the right, and but it's very Art Deco kind of inspired, like these pictures of people wrestling and this good stuff, you know, that you can connect with, and I just think we need more of that. And the thing is, people who aren't as satisfied with the far left, because there's a lot of people who have defected recently, you know, they're waiting for the money. You know, it's like if your whole livelihood as an artist depends on left-wing money, you gotta kind of moderate in that general direction, or just shut your mouth, you know, about certain things. But you know, if they can make a living by working with other people, then that's, you know, they're more free to do the things that they want to do. You know, so you know, I think we need people to fund that stuff.
I wholeheartedly agree. And we need to fund it, right? Not people need to, we need to fund it, because life, whatever you want is on the other side of a story that you craft and tell.
Right.
So for example, the clothes that you wear, the clothes that I'm wearing right now, the backdrop of your studio, the backdrop of my studio, this is a story.
Absolutely.
These aren't words behind me. This is a story that I'm telling through visual representation. And I wish more men understood that. You know, when you go on a date, you're creating a narrative and a story about who you are and why this woman should be interested in you.
Right.
If you're going in for a job interview, you're going to dress a certain way. You're going to carry yourself a certain way. You're going to present and communicate a certain way to craft a narrative as to why that guy should hire you.
Oh, absolutely.
And I really do wish that we were better, as just men in general, we were better storytellers, because we say it's not important. Oh, don't judge a book by its cover. Clever, but not accurate. Nobody does that. We all judge a book by its cover and the story that it tells us.
Yeah, I mean, George Washington was fantastic about that. Like when you read his biography, he was like, this is the way I need to ride on a white horse, and this is where I need to look. This is the way the president of the United States looked. Yeah, because all of that was important. All of that display was very important for people, and obviously the ancient Romans were very good about that. You know, men have, you know, always, that's how you command power. I feel like that's a title of a book that a friend of ours wrote. You know, The Appearance of Power.
Yep. The Appearance of Power. Tanner Guzzi. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think you have to care about that. And there's this idea that I think that, and it has to do with people's feelings about vanity and so forth. I think in America, we have a kind of strain of Puritanism in America. I think that affected that maybe more than in Europe. But yeah, I think telling that story is really important. We need to be invested in telling the story that, like you're talking about. I mean, now that I'm doing more filming of things, you know, then I have the actual, you know, the additional thing of movement to think about. Like, oh, I'm filming, like, and I'm like, well, what does my character do? Like, what is he doing? Like, what is he wearing? Like, what makes sense? You know, like even when I'm making little videos for Instagram, because, you know, I'm really just making those to show clients what I could theoretically do, but it's also super fun for me. So, but I'm like, this doesn't really fit with my whole vibe. I need to like figure something out, you know, like that makes it more cohesive. Because that's really what a lot of what makes something good aesthetically is it's integrity. Like, are all the pieces of this saying the same thing? You know, like, is that message, like you said, it's a story. Is it all telling the same story? Or is it a mess? Yeah, you know, I think it doesn't matter what the story is, but something becomes aesthetically really impressive if it's telling a cohesive story.
Yeah, and that's the note I just took right here. So when you say integrity, you're not talking about moral integrity. You're talking about congruency or consistency in a message you're delivering.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kinds of the same. You know, like, I mean, moral integrity is really just your actions and words line up. The things that you believe and the things that you do, you know?
Well, I hear that, but then most of us wouldn't say, and I don't think this is actually the definition of the word. I agree more with what you're saying, but I think most of us would say that a Muslim jihadist is not a person in integrity. But I would actually argue the opposite. I would say that individual who's willing to go die for his belief is actually very much in integrity.
Yeah, he's doing what he says he believes. It doesn't have to be what you believe, but he's doing what he says he believes. And so that's consistent. And, you know, I when I had an event with some of my guys recently, one of the things I talk about, you never hear the word disintegration. You know, that you never hear them used together as opposites, but integration and disintegration are like, you know, opposite things. And it becomes it's an interesting concept to think about that. Like, if you're integrated, everything is part of a whole. Everything is part of a whole that makes sense. And if you're disintegrating, you see these like things like Thanos things in the movie where people were just floating away, and it's like they all the different pieces are dispersing and they just don't make any sense. You know, so I
never thought about the words, that compound word, as two separate words, but that makes sense.
Yeah, it hit me on a road trip. I was like, wait, those are the same. That's integer. Oh yeah, I mean integer. That root means whole. And so like wholesome actually kind of means the same thing too. We think of it being a different thing, but wholesome basically means the same thing as integrity.
Well, as you're saying this, I'm thinking about this disintegrated. It's even hard to say integration. It's even hard to say that word because you don't think about it like that. But I think about that as society. Like we're so confused. Everybody's pulling in opposite directions. Everybody believes something different, and there's no integration. And so we're disintegrating right before our very eyes, and we see this collapse. I think we're in the real world collapse of the United States, quite frankly. It's disintegrating before our eyes.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things like that. Well, you have things pulling in different directions, and that's the disintegration part. You know, like all these things pulling in different directions. I mean, I'm a little more hopeful about where we're at right now, way more hopeful than I was 2 years ago. But I mean, that's what social media does to us too. You know, like it disintegrates our mind. If you think about it, it's like, you're constantly in a state of distraction, and it pulls you in all these different directions. You know, and kind of that's why people meditate. That's why people go to church. That's people that they do this thing that brings them back to the things that they care about and the things that they believe. It pulls them back to like this center rather than having them all over the place, you know?
I've thought about that specifically with faith, which I've always had faith. I've never been somebody who's overly religious or even all that faithful, quite frankly. But even just over the past several weeks, I've started to read the Bible. I've started to pray every day for the past 2.5, 3 weeks now. And as I was thinking about how it makes me feel, I was thinking of it on a more secular level. I think outside of the spiritual, faith-based component, even from a secular perspective, that wholesomeness, that code of conduct, because most people don't have a code of conduct. So if you use Catholicism, for example, or you're a Baptist or whatever, pick your religion of choice. At a minimum, I think it gives you a code of conduct. And that's what I think a lot of men are missing is how do I operate? What is my standard operating procedure? You know, when you buy a new computer, it comes with a manual and it says, this is how this computer works and here's how you operate it. Right. But men don't have that. And we haven't spent much time thinking about that. I think in the past, we've adopted that from our ancestors, right? We worked in the field with our dad and he taught us lessons while we were tilling the fields. or we were in the factories and this is how it needed to be made, or we went on a hunt with our fathers and grandfathers, or we went through a rite of passage and that knowledge was passed down from elders to the youth. But those, to use the word, are disintegrating. Those institutions are disintegrating, and now men are left wandering around aimlessly without a code of conduct.
Right. And I would say, like, I mean, you can figure one out. I mean, that's what, the ancient Greeks were doing. Like, well, that's what philosophy is. Like, let's figure out what our code of conduct even is. But I would say, like, philosophy is being a philosopher is at least a part-time job, and it doesn't pay very well. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to figure all those things out. So yeah, people do. I mean, and that's why people listen to you. That's why people read my books. That's why, because they're looking for, okay, what do I agree with? What do I disagree with? What do I believe? What do I not believe? The tricky thing is when you have so many different voices coming at them from every way, and you never take time to solidify what that code of conduct is. What things are non-negotiable for me. Like what things are the core things that I won't let go of, and what things do I not care about? Because different things are important to everybody. So you can have some things like, I definitely won't do this. That's my line. But a lot of people haven't even taken time to figure out the line. If you haven't figured out the line, then when someone asks you, then I guess you're like, okay, like you don't have anything. You have.
That's the default.
I mean, yeah. People just say, all right, but I mean, that's why, and we've both talked about this a lot. It's important to have groups of men that, you hold you accountable to the same things that you said you were going to do, or just that you want to impress. Like that you want, okay, I want these guys to think well of me. So I said that I was going to do this, so I don't want to do the opposite of that. That's so much of what honor is. I've talked a lot about honor over the years, and honor is really your reputation for virtue. It's
with other people or yourself, or how would you define that?
Well, you can break it up into a lot of different ways, and they have. But I think honor is fundamentally reputation. I think when it becomes something else, then it becomes. I read a thing by Brett McKay years ago where he kind of said, "Oh, it's integrity." Well, that's integrity, or we already have a word for that. But the ancient understanding of honor is your reputation, and tends to be your reputation. It's with your honor group, and so because
I think that makes sense because it's subjective, right? Because if we go back to the Muslim jihadist, we would say he's an integrity, but we wouldn't say he's honorable.
Well, they would absolutely say he's honorable for his community would. His community would. Right. And that's what thing. It's like that's like talking about being people on the internet. I can't take everyone else's opinion seriously. I can't take input from everyone and have them all evaluate my deeds. But like there are certain people that like, okay, I respect that guy's opinion, so he's kind of in my honor group. Like I don't want to disappoint this person. If I'm doing well, if I'm impressing this guy with the things that because he's someone I agree with and we share the same values. And so your honor group has to be, I mean, obviously traditionally your honor group is the group that you're brought up into. And this is their community. And they might have terrible values by our standards, but their value, that is their honor within their group. If you're brought up in ancient Rome, that is your honor. And that's anos, it comes from ancient Rome. And that's their values are your values, and your reputation within that community is your honor. And then if you break that, but their version of honor would be very different from ours. I mean, their fathers. We like the word patriarchy, but their fathers were actually allowed to kill their children if they didn't like them. I mean, they're like. You were literally in charge of
we don't
want
to kill our children at certain points in life.
Exactly. But they're like, you know what? You're a bad seed. Out.
Yeah.
But they had absolute authority. The patriarchy had absolute authority. And we would probably tone that down a little bit in modern society. But
I even think about like when I grew up and I was playing sports in high school, I grew up in a small southern Utah town, Parowan, Utah. I think there was 2,200 people in the entire town, 42 kids in my graduating class. And there's a town that's about 30, 40 miles north of Parowan called Beaver. And we hated Beaver. That was our rivalry. So we hated, and all the guys there, we hated all the guys there. They were assholes. They were jerks. Like whatever we had to say to villainize them. And then I got into college, and there was a couple guys from Beaver who graduated the same year I did. We got to college, and we were best friends in college. But a year earlier, I hated them.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting. I think it's important that we choose our group wisely that aligns with our value, and then question whether or not this is a group we want to continue to belong to based on what that group is producing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's male tribalism at its finest. I mean, that's what we do. That's part of that whole process is because you're technically at war with that other team. That's the idea. And you're in the process of dehumanizing them so you can kill them. I mean, that's basically what it is.
Justify what you're doing.
And that's one of the reasons why, like, that saying, different between being a good man and being good at being a man is I had to separate those two, because what you'll do is that man is not even a man because he's like the people on those teams. Oh, they're liars. They cheat. They're not even men. Like they're not even men. And so we unman people that we don't like. That's part of our whole process. And if you know what people are doing as an adult, and you're like, well, okay, they're doing the thing. that's what you're doing. But I mean, if we see it happening with wars and stuff right now. I mean, I think every side always claims that the other side is killing babies. That's kind of that's a convention. I guess that's a
universal thing you don't do, right?
right. So everyone will always claim that the other side is killing more babies or whatever. It's just one of those things. And like, see, they're barely even human. Like, what are they doing? It's one of those things that is just part of tribalism. And it's part of the process for for being okay with killing that person.
That is interesting about the killing babies, because it's killing babies and killing old people, right? Mm-hmm. So the right says the left is killing babies through abortion, and the left says the right is killing old people through their lack of empathy towards Medicare and Medicaid and social services and Social Security. So we're killing grandma and grandpa. So like we're doing the same thing. It's infants and grandmas and grandpas.
And you're killing the trans because you're making them kill themselves, and you're killing all the outsiders all the people that you're making feel bad by having standards. You're killing all those people because you're hurting their feelings. All the microaggressions. It's all part of the same process. They're just accusing you of different atrocities.
Yeah, interesting. Well, like you said, I think you have to do that in order to justify your own actions or behaviors or even thought process towards an individual. I can't imagine that even in my own life, the way that I've thought negatively about certain people at certain aspects in my life, if I couldn't justify me feeling that way, I would just be a horrible, horrible person. And I am at times, just like all of us are.
Yeah.
I do want to shift gears because you had sent me this article and it was really interesting. It was something that you wrote on your Substack, and I can't remember the title of it right offhand, but you talked about this concept of gossip and how men will often laugh and poke and mock women for gossiping. And yet we engage in it to the same degree with a little bit of a twist, maybe even more so. I'd like to hear your take on that, because that is something that we definitely engage in, and especially in the realm of social media and building movements like we're trying to create here.
Yeah. I mean, well, definitely in the realm of social media, I don't think men really realize how much of what they do is technically gossip. Just because they say women gossip about celebrities, well, men just have different celebrities. If you watch ESPN, 3/4 of that, all their talk shows are just gossip. I mean, they might talk a little bit about what actually happened on the field, and everything is else. Can you believe that so-and-so was taking this contract, and then he said this, and then he said that? And it's all this moral judgment and arguments about that and whatever. They're going back and forth. They're basically gossiping. And the same thing, I mean, like the jiu-jitsu world, like whatever, Craig Johnson and what is it, Gordon Ryan, whatever. There's
Gordon Ryan,
thing back and forth. It's all, and you look at the comments, there's thousands and thousands of comments on all of those posts of guys being like, yeah, that guy sucks, that other guy sucks. So they're all just gossiping back and forth about it. And that's what drives so much, as we're talking about engagement, YouTube comments, all that stuff. People start these wars to start all these guys gossiping back and forth. And it's really just not, I don't think it's very dignified. And it's not, it's very non-productive. I think it's a very unproductive use of your time. You're like spending a lot less time talking about yourself and talking about some other guy and all the things that he's doing. Now, where that, in that piece that I wrote, it's called, I think, Gossip Carrion Call, I think is what it's called. But on my Substack, that was one of those pieces where I wrote myself to a little bit of a different opinion because I went through the anthropological research and what anthropologists say about gossip. And they tend to talk about it in this very neutral term because a lot of it is what we do to regulate each other's behavior morally.
Well, it's relatability too, right?
Yeah, well, but it's what they're saying is basically, okay, well, if you go to a small town and so-and-so cheats on so-and-so, and then everybody knows about it and everybody talked about it, and then no one wants that to happen, so it actually kind of regulates their behavior.
Like social accountability in a way.
Yeah. And that's probably happened in every tribe that's ever existed. Like, oh, can you believe what, Talk and Grok over there did while they're, like
Talk and Grok.
I just,
I'm sure you researched that. I'm sure that was their names too.
Yeah. Oh, that's my best caveman names for right now. But yeah, but if you think, we've been doing that for all of human history. And so that is part of how we make decisions. And it was talking about how even like when men go out on a hunt and, they're going to come back and be like, well, can you believe what Bob did? He really screwed this up. He called out, he made some noise and then the deer ran away. Men talk about each other's performance that way. But I think that's very productive. And so I think when we talk about gossip in a negative way, the way we need to identify what we really mean when we say that is malicious gossip. Like, are you doing are you tearing someone down just to tear them down because it makes you feel good? And that's a lot of it because, you can have nothing going on for you in life. And, they always say like, haters are always the ones beneath you. They're like not the guys who you're trying to be. But,
right, yeah.
Those millions of guys in the comments who are, saying you're a terrible person or whatever, like it feels good to do that. Especially if I always like to imagine when that happens to me, like I used to like to imagine them in the line at the DMV, like they're in some place they don't want to be and they're bored and they're annoyed and they're just looking for something to do,
just something to like feel meaningful about.
Yeah, exactly. But that's, like I said, is that, when we encourage that, like, is that the culture that we want? Do we want to encourage culture of just guys just like talking trash all the time? Or, so a lot of influencers will like lean into that and just let's create drama and have all these guys talk trash. And is that positive? Like, is that the future that we want? Are those the kind of men we want? I think that's a good question to ask.
I think it's a good point. I heard this interesting concept that I had never considered, and it was just a couple of weeks ago. I had Father Stephen Gadberry on the podcast, and he was talking about what accountability actually is. And I think a lot of these guys who are calling people out would say, well, I'm just holding him accountable. I'm just holding these people accountable. And what Stephen Gadberry said is that that's not accountability. That could just be being an asshole.
Right.
Real accountability means, and this goes back to what you were saying about your tribe, real accountability is if I'm going to call somebody out, then I'm also simultaneously volunteering to walk with them on a journey to improvement. Right. And that's accountability. So if you said to me, and you've done this before, I wouldn't say called me out, but you've said things before, and I'm like, okay, let me think about that for a second. And I'm willing to acknowledge that because I know that you're not just taking pop shots from the cheap seats.
Right.
You're actually like, no, I care about you, Ryan. I think you're wrong. Here's why. Let's work through it together. And that's accountability, not just spewing nonsense or running your mouth about. So that's more malicious gossip like you're talking about. Yeah. And it's just cathartic too. Like I said, it just makes you feel good to say something bad about somebody else. I mean, as an American, I do put politicians into a separate category for that. Like, I feel like it's our job to talk trash about them because they take our money and spend it. But like, otherwise, not only is it our job, it's just part of our duty those are our representatives. So if they're acting on our behalf, it is our responsibility to say, no, you're representing me. Here's what I want represented. Right. So, I mean, I think they're on a different level of the game, but I think when you're just talking about other guys,
Yeah, I think there's no, especially guys who are theoretically on your team. Why are you? Why are you engaging in that? Like, and that's a shame because like we were talking about our space. Whatever, whether it's the manosphere, it's an outdated term, but like the men's improvement space or just masculinity space. You had so many guys. It really descended, I think, at a certain point into this WWE culture of guys, fighting with each other for likes and views. And starting fights. And like, you guys are like, you have the points of disagreement are so small, but you're calling each other out and really just hurting morale generally. And I see that happening in politics a little bit right now too. I'm not really a big fan of it. You have like all these people who are basically on the same side and you're just attacking each other and it's bad for morale. But it gets everybody likes and views, and so that's why they kind of do it, I think. But I think if you're basically on the same team, and you want more or less the same things, why are you taking like sleazy pop shots at each other? It just doesn't help anyone. And people could say, like you said, even when it's the big guys holding the other guys accountable, like, I just want to expose these frauds or whatever. They're all saying stuff like that. And it's all likes and views and they're full of shit. But if you really cared, obviously you'd talk to that guy in person, not try and drag him through the mud on the internet. In front of everybody, you're basically putting him in the like pillory or whatever. Like you're just gonna like have everybody throw rotten tomatoes at this guy, and if you really wanted to improve him, like you said earlier, you'd probably reach out privately, and try to offer some advice. And not everyone wants it, but like that would be the correct way to do it if you want to be on a team where everyone's winning.
That would be what I would say is the masculine way of doing something. If you see a problem, you address the problem. If you're not willing to address the problem head on, ignore it. Don't worry about it. Maybe it doesn't apply to you. Yeah, I think the example you used in your article, or one of the examples, was a man in sweats and a woman in a dress at a restaurant. And somebody captured that brief moment in time. Who knows? Maybe he just got out of the hospital. Maybe he just got done with a workout and he wanted to go have lunch with his lady and he only had 15 minutes before he had to get to wherever. We don't know. Just leave the guy alone. There is masculine behavior that we ought to be aware of, but we don't need to poke at people that we know nothing about.
Yeah, and that's something I also wanted to talk about because we were kind of our general subject that we were going to talk about is that, not everyone wants to be in a reality TV show. And that's what the internet kind of has turned into. And a lot of people didn't notice that it turned from a content creation machine from social media. It's really not that anymore. It's just a content machine. But this idea that everyone is, no matter what they're doing at any time, their behavior is something that should be talked about and can be blown up and made into this giant thing. I think that we should have a choice as to whether or not we're going to, become reality television stars. Because there's some people who want to do that, and the internet wants that. It wants it so much, because people want to be voyeurs and they want to know what you're having for breakfast and what you're doing all day long and whatever. And, I don't want to live that life. I don't want to have everybody in my business. And it's not because I'm doing anything wrong. It's just because most of the time it's boring. But, I do the same thing every day. But people want to be involved in your life. And I think that and that can hurt your life. When you invite the whole world in to be part of your reality television show, it hurts all the people around you. There's, and I've been you've met Lucio. No one on the internet knows who Lucio is. And they don't need to be involved. He didn't sign up for that. He didn't need to sign up to have his life under a microscope for the whole world. He's just a normal person, and that's, I think that people need to have the freedom to be just like private people.
Well, I think that's right. Like if you want to be a voyeur and you want to put your stuff out there, and I do, because I enjoy sharing what is working and what isn't working. I enjoy hopefully giving people some inspiration or a new way to consider some things, but I signed up for that. The guy next to me in the line at the grocery store didn't sign on for that. So I don't have any right to infringe on his liberty because I think it'd make a good talking point. I remember years ago, there was a picture of this like really skinny, frail man, and I posted it online, and I kind of mocked it quite a bit actually, about like, oh, look, this is what manliness today looks like relative to, 100 years ago. Right. And somebody reached out to me, a friend reached out to me. He's like, hey, I know that guy, and he's battling a terminal illness. That's why he looks like that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, my bad. I took the post down, and it really made me reconsider what we've been talking about is we don't know people's stories, and that's okay, but you don't need to drag people through it. And the other problem, and you actually, I reached out to you a couple of days ago because you made a post, and the post you made actually applied to me as well, because you talked about this concept of men who put themselves on these pedestals. And I think at one point, about 3 or 4 years ago, I started to do that a little bit, and I got a little too big for my britches. And I was very public about my alcohol abuse and then my divorce that I went through. And you had said in that post, it just the litany of men who put themselves in that position and then fall, and the hypocrisy of it. And I couldn't help but feel like, oh yeah, that definitely applies to me. I don't think you were calling me out by any means, but I can take that and say, is he right? And the answer was yes. But the point that you made is you better have your shit together, like dialed in, locked in, if you're going to put yourself in a position of judging and critiquing other people.
Right. Yeah, that's the main takeaway from that. And, and there's things I can give advice about, or things that I feel that I'm right about. I'm really right about. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk about those things, but that's one of the reasons why I never got into coaching. Like, and a lot of people in our space got into coaching, and then they're telling these guys how to live their lives. I'm like, man, I don't know how to tell you how to have a wife and 4 kids and get a job that I've never had and all these things. I don't know how to do that. So I try not to go outside of my wheelhouse. I don't tell how people how to raise kids. I don't have any kids. Why would I tell them how? I don't know anything about that. And so, like, I think that you need to pick the things that you're an expert at, and then not try to be an expert at all things. And a lot of these guys who presented themselves as, I am the exemplar, I am the alpha. I am the alpha. You should live your life exactly as I live my life. I mean, everyone kind of enjoys it when they watch them go down. Like because oh, this guy called everyone else a piece of garbage, and then oh, look what happened. And there's been a lot of that, and some of it's sad. I mean, there's people who have I mean, an example, because everyone talks about it and it's fine, and I don't think it's me gossiping, but one of the guys who replied in the comments was I had met when he was one of the Liver King's assistants. When I met, and he's like, I know, I was with the king of lies, but many such cases, there were a lot of guys who got in on, like I said, kind of monetized male insecurity, and they, became, I'm the alpha, do what I say, you're a loser, pay me money, and they kept doing that thing. And I don't think that they really cared what happened to the men or not, but they're just, this is the game. This is where the money is, and I'm going to do this for a while. And a lot of those guys did end up falling. We've seen a lot of them, and like in every area. It's not like one religion. It's not like whatever. It's like in every area, you've seen a lot of those guys just go down because they put themselves. The Greeks would have called it hubris. They put themselves at a super god level, and then made them as if they were unassailable. And of course, everyone screws up. And so if you put yourself under a microscope like that and you screw up, then everyone's going to know about it. And I mean, I've, like, when you had your situation, I definitely had some empathy for that, because I had some idea what that feels like. I mean, I didn't have as big of an arc at some point, but man, I wrote a lot about tribalism. You should start a gang. And then I joined a tribe, and then I quit. I joined a tribe, and man, don't think that wasn't part of my thought process toward the whole thing. Like, no one's ever going to listen to anything I say ever again. And
I had all
so
sorts
like
of thoughts like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I kind of have an idea what he was going through. That was 2018 for me. It is like that when that went down, I was like, and you know, I still probably don't talk a lot about like, I still think that men need a group of men and they should try to find a group of men and all those things that I said that were still right. But I definitely picked the wrong tribe. And I put myself out there as doing that. And then, you know, like I had to back away from it because I just picked the wrong guys. And so, you know, like it happens to all of us to some degree, I think. But, you know, it's like the more areas that you say that you're amazing at, you know, like one of those is going to fall apart, you know?
And I think I have this, like this really, I've acquired this through some really painful lessons over the past 3 or 4 years now.
Right.
Where I have this really healthy level of fear in my soul that if I start to get prideful about my relationship or my kids or my financial situation or my health, that scares me because I think you can either be humble or God will humble you. And I'm not interested in being humble the way I have been over the past 3 years. That I do not want to be humbled that way. So I really do try to stay humble. It gets the better of me at times still, but I really am fearful of what comes after pride. As they say, right? Pride comes before the fall.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's what always happens. And so, yeah, I think that's a healthy level of being careful. And that's one of the reasons, I mean, unfortunately, that's part of getting older too. Because you've stumbled a few times and you know what's happening. And so you're a little bit less like, I don't know, you know, like, and there's an age that, like, I was telling my buddy, because he's about that age right now. I'm like, you are the perfect age to like know everything and be believable. It's about 35. Like around 35, it's like 25. You think you know everything, but you're actually retarded. But like at around 35, you've had enough life experience. You can say things with confidence and whatever. And then I think when you get a little older, you're like, oh well, that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. You've been through that a few times, so that's why I think older men tend to hem and haw a little bit more. Like maybe that'll work. I don't know. You know, that could be shot. That could be the way, or it might not. You know, like that. And I'm
the problem though is it's just not as sexy.
Oh no,
right?
No, because
that's the issue. That's why everybody just
wants you to have like the exact opinion and like this is the way. And you sign up for my course, and this is the way, and I'm going to fix your life, and everything's going to be better. And I know the answer. And that's what they want to hear because people love confidence. You know, if you want to be a leader, you have to project that confidence because otherwise they're going to be like, oh, my leader's a loser. I don't want to hang out with them. But if you feel like, if you look like you know what's going on and you can convey that, you know, people are going to follow you. But then, like I said, I think it was Ryan McGinn. I think I was talking to Tanner about it the other day. We're in what people are calling I think Ryan said it's a trust recession. Because we had such a big explosion. Yeah, totally. We had such a big explosion of these big influencers all throughout the masculinity state, but everywhere. Women had it too. And all these people telling people that they had all the answers and sign up for my thing and join my thing and whatever. And now it's harder and harder to get people to do that because I think people they've been burned or they've seen these great idols fall like before their eyes, like over and over again. And they're a little bit like, yeah, I'll wait and see with that guy, you know, like wait and see what he's going to do. Or, you know, like people are a little bit more wary than they used to. And that's why, you know, people like these really raw, we're going through people are like these really raw, like just talking into your phone as a normal person videos have kind of become a big thing. And I refuse to do that because I like things to be beautiful. But there's
not me. I talk into my phone while I'm driving down the road. So I'm
I mean,
totally
I do that with my guys
it.
and I do it with everybody. But like, I'm not, you know, like if I'm going to make content, I'm like, I want things to look a certain way. But it's, I think that, you know, that's what people like right now, just because it's so underproduced that they feel like it's real, you know, and there's some truth and some not truth to that, because anyone, you know, like I'm sure you've known, and I've certainly known men who are just extremely charismatic and also full of shit. You know, like there are men who can just, sell you broken glass, and they're just good, like, but that doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about, but
Yeah, I think they're two different things, but I do agree that most of the time, not most, but in a lot of cases, it overlaps where you have the silver tongue salesman, and he could sell ice to an Eskimo, but on the backside, he's full of garbage. His life's a mess, and I do think, to your point, though, people are looking for credibility and confidence in their leaders, especially in social media, and we do have a problem of putting people on pedestals they don't belong. People do it with me. I'm sure people do it with you. And I don't belong on a pedestal. I need to, and if I am tempted to put myself on a pedestal, I need to be very careful of that. And if I see other people putting me on a pedestal, not only is it not good for them, it's not good for me. It's not fair to me, right? Because I'm a human being. I'm gonna fuck up again. Yeah. Every day I do something I shouldn't do to varying degrees, right? But we shouldn't be idolizing these people. If they have something good to say or something valuable that we think we could incorporate into our lives that would help, then that's great. But also remember, they're not Jesus. They're not God. They're just a human being, and you can take the good and you can siphon out the stuff that doesn't work or isn't moral or isn't with your honor code and go on about living your life.
Yeah, and there's another point, something that you can't control when you're a public figure of any kind, is that people actually write their own stories about you in their heads. I could put all the caveats in front of everything that I say. I can sit and write, as I often do. I'm like, I'm just a guy, I'm just a guy figuring that stuff out. I'm not right about everything. There's some things I'm definitely right about, but like there's other things that I'm like, I don't really know. I don't have everything wired, in my life. And, but people, because you'll present yourself in a certain way or you look a certain way or whatever, they will actually write their own narrative about you, about what you claim to be. And you can't control that. Because if you're putting all the work into saying like, hey, I'm not this, I'm not that, this is what, because I always had, from the very beginning, I was very specific about like, I want to say what I actually believe and what I don't believe, and set boundaries and all that, and be very open and honest about what I'm trying to do. But that doesn't mean if someone sees you and you look jacked or whatever, they're like, you think you're better than everybody else. They'll project that onto you, whether you want it or not. Like you can be as real as you want to be, but people will project that, and you can't control that. But there are people who will be angry with you for not being the person that they made up in their own heads. And that you can't control that. I'm sure you've had that experience. I mean, like that, like I said this and that, and told you I was just doing this, but in your mind, you wanted me to be this person,
Right. Yeah. I needed to be that person in order to fit whatever narrative you'd already conjured up in your mind about how you ought to live your life. Yeah, I do. Right. I have got that where guys are like, well, here's another one I hear. Well, you're saying this today, but in podcast 17, you said this. I'm like, 17 was 10 years ago, bro. Right. I hope I'm saying something different in episode 1700 relative to what I said in 17. If not, what the hell have I been doing for the past 10 years?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And hopefully you've explained it along the way when you changed your viewpoint. But I mean, and I think most of us do. I mean, I try to do that. I'm sure you try to do that. Like, okay, well, I had a change of view. I get called out all the time because in 2014, I wrote an essay in a book that was published in 2014. I wrote an essay telling people not to vote because I was being an edgelord and whatever. And yeah, I definitely vote. I can tell you why, I changed that position. But I still get like, oh, well, you said we weren't supposed to vote. Like, dude, that was literally, that was like 15 years ago.
The other thing too is, go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. Yeah.
I was just going to say the other thing too is I think that one thing that's helped me with not being enraged, and that's what I really want men to hear as we're talking is, hey, we don't need to be enraged about everything. You even said it earlier. You don't need to have an opinion about everything, just the things that matter to you. And one thing that's helped me along the way is believing in redemption, right? Believing that people can change, believing that people can learn lessons and improve their behavior. And I've seen that. I've seen that in myself, and I've seen people have that humanity where it's like, all right, well, let's see what you do now. And I've had people over the past 3 years who have come back and said, hey, I stopped listening to you 3 years ago because of what went on. But I just want to tell you, man, I've seen the way you've conducted yourself over the past 3 years, and it's kind of inspiring. And one thing that I get really frustrated with is when I see somebody else fall in some public and visual way, and everybody just dogpiles, you know, and maybe that person does deserve that to a degree, especially if they were hypocritical as I was. Right. But also, we ought to believe that a person can change themselves, because if we believe that about other people, it gives us permission to offer ourselves some grace and forgiveness as we fall and mess up. And it just seems like a more stress-free, hopeful, optimistic way of living your life than thinking that person's evil because they did one thing one time and I hate them forever.
Yeah. I mean, there are patterns of behavior. And then if you watch those and they don't change, then you're like, okay, you just changed the script a little bit, but you're doing the same thing. I mean, because there are a lot of people like that. There's someone who went on a little tour recently who was he was on Tucker recently. And I'm like, that's the same scammy comm artist that he was before. He's just doing a new thing. But I mean, like, my estimation of it hasn't changed. Oh, he found religion. He did a different thing. I'm like, no, you were doing exactly what you're doing before. You just want attention. But I've certainly changed over the years, and I think we have to give people an on-ramp, an off-ramp. A lot of my friends have been saying that recently. Like, if you say someone isn't living the way that you think that they should, you have to give them a way to stop that. You have to give them the possibility of change. Otherwise, if you're always going to hold them as the person, why would they change? If you're going to hold them back to that person, why would they be any better? Because no matter what I do, I'm always the bad guy. So therefore, why should I change? Becomes like that's going to be their mentality. You're encouraging them to stay the way they are. So yeah, you have to give them some opportunity to change. But also, I think, there is a tendency, like, people, in the way that people make fake apologies. I mean, politicians do it a lot, but celebrities, all kinds of things. Like, you got caught, and now you're going to go on your apology tour and say, I've totally transformed as a human being. Well, we'll see in a few years.
Let's give it some time here.
Yeah, let's give it some time. You don't get to just change overnight and have everyone believe it. I think you have to. It's like
somebody says, I'm sorry. Yeah, somebody says, you get into an argument with your wife and you're like, hey, babe, I'm sorry. And she doesn't change her behavior right away. You're like, what's your problem? I said sorry. It's like, yeah, but you still did that thing. Like, give it some time. Yeah. Like, you did that thing 300 times. Just because you said you're going to stop doesn't mean you are. So that's all in all areas of life, and there's all kinds of areas where people do that. It's like, you can say it with people in dieting. Oh, really? You're going to stop eating that? Okay. Let's see. We'll see that. All across life. You just have to. You have to give people a chance for redemption, but you also have to give them time to demonstrate that they've actually changed. Before you accept it as this is a transformation, rather than this is a a fake apology. You have to. And as the transgressor, I think you need to also be aware that people don't owe you their forgiveness. Right. Give them some space too, and say, hey, you did this thing over time. You don't just get to have changed behavior by them. Go through the repentance process. That's what it is. It's a repentance process. Go through that process and let people work through their process and afford them the space and the grace they need. I do like, because this ties into the concept of the honor code you were talking about earlier. And I actually really appreciate the fact that you're saying that there are some people that I care about how they view me, how they perceive me, and why that's valuable. Because the common narrative is, I don't give a crap what anybody thinks about me. If they don't like me, that's their problem. It's like, no, I actually care the way my kids feel about me. I care about what you and other people in my circle care about and think about me, because that is important. I respect them. I respect their opinion. They help me be better. And so I should care about some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, that's the positive part of the gossip thing. That's the positive part of like the people always say that honor is bad. I mean, obviously there's a big thing on the left that the honor is bad, but having this reputation that you have to be mindful of does regulate your behavior, and if you're picking the right people who their behavior is also good and their values are also your values, then yeah, it's a very positive thing. I mean, I just did something with my guys from my group. I took 3 months off of drinking and energy drinks, and
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
and
like,
then you took another drink of an energy drink and it like blew your mind or something. I can't remember exactly what you said.
I was just messing around. But I was just jumping on a trend with that one. But it is. But I mean, I couldn't let them down because I'm the leader, and also because like I said that I was going to do that, and so I don't want to lie to the guys. So like, even though I really want a Negroni right now, I can't lie to the guys. So I didn't have a drop of anything for like 3 months. And so that was having them there, even though they couldn't watch me. They don't know what I'm doing, but having them there as people who I respected, their opinions and their estimation of me was helpful for me. Like that helped keep me on track and helped me do what I said I was going to do, because I didn't want to be a liar and I didn't want to lie to them. And I think that's a big part of how honor and having that sense of reputation with the right group of men can really help us to be better men.
Right. Well, Jack, I appreciate it, man. I love our conversations. One of the things that I really appreciate and admire most about you is your thoughtfulness, and that it keeps me on my toes when I hear you talk about the concepts and the ideas that are important to you. It gets me thinking. I don't always agree necessarily, but it gets me thinking in a way that I haven't before. And I think that's one of the best things that you bring into my life indirectly, is getting me to think about these concepts in different ways. And I just got to tell you, I appreciate that about you. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way.
Cool. Well, thank you.
So tell the guys where to connect. I know that you had told me, and you said this publicly, so I can say this here, that you're writing a new book, but that'll probably be next year sometime. Any teasers, any hints at what we're looking at with that book, or anything like that you're willing to share?
Yeah. I mean, I think I want to write a book about virtue. I wrote a book about you have to separate being a good man and being good at being a man, but they aren't mutually exclusive. I just had to separate those to talk about a certain concept. And virtue has always actually meant masculinity first. Virtue meant manliness to the ancient Romans. The vir that it comes from means man. It actually means manliness to the ancient Romans. So, in ancient Latin. And so I think that's a kind of natural evolution of my work, is to talk about the concept of virtue and its evolution and some of the things that you have to consider. Not really telling people how they should live, but things that they might want to think about. I think is the way I'm going to approach it. I do get a little more philosophical the older I get. But so I'm working on that, and I'm enjoying Substack. I don't write constantly, but Substack makes me feel like a writer again. I mean, that's how I started out doing this, and I like just write it. And that's what people. And I don't have to be a clown on the internet. I can just write a thing and think about it for 3 days, and then put my best out there, and then people read it, and people really go to Substack to read long form content. So I'm enjoying that. So you can find me on Substack. I'm sure you'll put a link there, and just Jack Donovan Substack. I'm sure it'll come up. And then obviously I have my group, the Order of Fire, which is a very specific thing for a very specific group of guys, and that's the main thing I'm doing. And like we said at the beginning of the show, right now I'm trying to make more art, and I want to do that, be more creative and make more art, because that's what I love to do. Running around shooting a whole strongman meet all day for 8 hours. I didn't even go to the bathroom. I was just like, go all day. And it was so fun. And that's what I love doing. And I love sitting in the editing room and editing video and putting it all together, and this kind of feeling of being almost a filmmaker. You see the narrative, you feel like a conductor, here's the music, where the music hits, and bam, It's there's this magic to it that I really am enjoying right now. So I'm kind of doing that as a living. So if anyone lives in Arizona, you can hire me. Basically,
awesome.
that's one of the things that I'm trying to.
Or
get
if they
into.
pay you enough and they don't live in Arizona, they can also hire you.
Yeah, we'll travel. We'll travel.
Exactly.
You wouldn't put me on a plane, I'll come out and film you. But yeah. I mean, I'm really excited about that and to see where that goes. And I look at some of these guys' lives who, looking at their Instagram profile, some of these photographers and videographers and all the stuff that they're doing, and I'm like, that seems great. I'm like, they're just making art every day. I want to do that. So.
Man, I had a friend of mine. Gosh, I wish I could give him a plug. I can't think of his. I think it's called Tyler Rye Photography. I think that's right. Tyler Rye Photography. When I met him, we were in a local business group together, and he was replacing car windows with cracks and chips and that sort of thing. And but he was a photographer, and he's built this business over probably 10, 15 years now. He's a destination wedding photographer, and I see his work. He's in Scotland and Thailand and Australia, and the work he does is just amazing. I'm like, man, it's so cool to see somebody that I knew who was replacing car windshields and doing photography on the side to this destination wedding photographer. So I'm cool. I'm excited to see where that journey takes you, man. It seems like a pretty exciting one to you, and I'm glad for you. Yeah, well, Jack, we'll link everything up. I appreciate you and taking some time to be with our guys. I know a lot of the men who listen to the Order of Man podcast and are part of our movement very much believe in the message that you share as well. So I appreciate you taking some time to share it with us.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, brother.